A heartbreaking dawn. Rebecca Hayes stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Manhattan penthouse, watching the December sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and pink. Her packed suitcase sat by the bedroom door, a silent reminder that today was her last day with the Winters family. After 11 months of caring for little Amelia, it was time to say goodbye. The position in Boston had been everything she dreamed of, a permanent role at a prestigious special needs school, close to her aging parents, with benefits and stability. Yet as she looked at the snow beginning to fall over Central Park, Rebecca felt her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. The sound of tiny footsteps. Soft padding sounds made Rebecca turn from the window. 4-year-old Amelia stood in the doorway, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, her blonde curls messy from sleep. The little girl wore pajamas covered in tiny snowflakes, a gift Rebecca had given her last winter. When Amelia saw Rebecca, her blue eyes filled with a mixture of joy and confusion. She had been told yesterday that today was goodbye day, but children her age struggled to understand permanent departures. Rebecca knelt down, opening her arms. Amelia ran into them, hugging her tightly. The nanny breathed in the scent of the lavender shampoo they used during bath time, trying to memorize every detail of this moment. Morning rituals. "Good morning, sweet pea," Rebecca whispered, using the nickname she had given Amelia months ago. The child looked up at her with those impossibly blue eyes, so much like her father's, and touched Rebecca's cheek gently. Amelia had stopped speaking after the car accident that took her mother's life 14 months ago. The trauma had locked her voice away, though doctors assured everyone her vocal cords were perfectly healthy. She communicated through gestures, drawings, and the simple sign language Rebecca had been teaching her. Together they walked to the kitchen, hand in hand, following the routine they had established over nearly a year. Rebecca lifted Amelia onto her special stool at the marble counter while she prepared their breakfast. The kitchen was enormous, filled with appliances that cost more than Rebecca's entire college education. When she first arrived, the luxury had intimidated her. Now it felt like home. "James appears. I thought I heard you two up here," a deep voice said from the doorway. James Winters entered the kitchen, already dressed in an expensive charcoal suit despite the early hour. At 36, he was one of the youngest tech billionaires in New York, with sharp features and dark hair that was always perfectly styled. But this morning, Rebecca noticed the tiredness around his eyes, the slight tension in his shoulders. "Good morning, Mr. Winters," Rebecca said professionally, though after 11 months, the formality felt strange. "James," he corrected automatically, as he had done countless times. "I told you months ago to call me James." Rebecca nodded but knew she would never feel comfortable being that casual. He was her employer, a man who lived in a different world than her own. Amelia waved excitedly at her father, and James's expression softened immediately. He crossed the kitchen to kiss the top of his daughter's head. Breakfast conversations. "I cleared my entire schedule for today," James announced, pouring himself coffee from the pot Rebecca had made. "Cancelled all meetings, postponed conference calls, everything." Rebecca's eyes widened. James Winters never cancelled meetings. His company was in the middle of a major merger. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes, I did." His voice was firm. "Amelia needs me here today. We both need to be here." Something in his tone made Rebecca's heart skip. She focused on cutting fruit for Amelia's breakfast, not trusting herself to look at James. The weight of leaving. As they ate breakfast together, Rebecca felt the weight of every moment. This was the last time she would prepare Amelia's favorite blueberry pancakes in this kitchen. The last time she would sit at this counter, watching the morning sun stream through the windows. The last time she would be part of their morning routine. Amelia seemed to sense the sadness in the air. She ate slowly, her eyes moving between Rebecca and her father as if trying to understand what was happening. James cleared his throat. "Rebecca, I wanted to talk to you about something." She looked up, her heart pounding. Yes? The new nanny, Margaret, she starts after New Year's. She comes highly recommended, has 20 years of experience with special needs children. That's wonderful, Rebecca managed to say, though the words felt like glass in her throat. But she's not you, James continued, his blue eyes intense. Nobody could be you. Unexpected emotions. The kitchen fell silent except for the soft clink of Amelia's fork against her plate. Rebecca felt tears threatening and blinked them back quickly. Amelia will adjust, she said, keeping her voice steady. Children are resilient. Are they? James asked quietly. Or do we just tell ourselves that because it's easier than admitting we're about to break their hearts? Rebecca had no answer for that. She stood abruptly, beginning to clear the breakfast dishes to hide her emotions. Amelia slipped down from her stool and tugged on Rebecca's sleeve. When the nanny looked down, the little girl held up a piece of paper she had been drawing on during breakfast. It was a picture of 3 people holding hands, a tall man, a small girl, and a woman with long brown hair. Above them, Amelia had drawn a heart. "Oh, sweetheart," Rebecca whispered, kneeling down to hug the child. "I'm going to miss you so much." The plan for the day. James stood, his jaw tight. "I thought we could spend the day together. All of us. I know you have to leave at 6 for your train, but until then, let's make it special." Rebecca nodded, not trusting her voice. "We could go to Rockefeller Center," James suggested. "See the Christmas tree, go ice skating." Amelia loves skating. She does, Rebecca agreed, smiling through her tears. She's gotten so good at it. Amelia jumped up and down, excited by the mention of skating. She ran to get her coat from the hallway closet. Alone in the kitchen, James stepped closer to Rebecca. "There's something I need to tell you," he said softly. "Before you go, I need you to know that this year, having you here, it saved us. Both of us." Rebecca looked up at him, seeing vulnerability in his eyes that she had never witnessed before. "You would have been fine without me." "No," he said firmly. "We wouldn't have. You brought light back into this apartment. You taught Amelia how to smile again. You taught me how to be a father again." Before Rebecca could respond, Amelia returned, dragging her winter coat and boots. The moment between the adults dissolved, but the words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. As they prepared to leave for their final day together, Rebecca wondered how she would survive saying goodbye to this little girl who had become like a daughter to her. And to this man who had somehow, without either of them planning it, become so much more than just her employer, ice and laughter. The skating rink at Rockefeller Center sparkled under the massive Christmas tree, its thousands of lights reflecting off the ice like stars. Rebecca held Amelia's small mittened hand as they glided across the frozen surface, the little girl's face bright with pure joy. James skated beside them, surprisingly graceful for someone who claimed he never had time for leisure activities. He had removed his suit jacket and tie, looking more relaxed than Rebecca had ever seen him. His dark hair was slightly messy from the winter wind, and he was actually smiling. "Watch this, sweet pea," Rebecca said, releasing Amelia's hand carefully. The child had been practicing for months, and now she could skate short distances alone. Amelia pushed off with her little legs, wobbling slightly but maintaining her balance. She made it 5 feet before James caught her, lifting her high in the air. The girl's silent laughter was visible in her bright eyes and wide smile. Rebecca's heart clenched at the sight. These were the moments she would miss most, not the grand gestures or expensive outings, but the simple joy of watching Amelia overcome small challenges. A father's confession. After skating, they stopped at a hot chocolate cart. Amelia sat between them on a bench, sipping her cocoa with extra marshmallows, her cheeks pink from the cold. "Do you remember the first day you came to work for us?" James asked suddenly, his eyes on the skaters circling the rink. Rebecca nodded. "Of course. You interviewed me in your office. You were terrifying. A small smile played at his lips. Terrifying? You barely looked at me. You kept checking your phone during our conversation. I was certain you wouldn't hire me. I was drowning, James admitted quietly. Amelia was occupied watching the skaters, giving them a moment of private conversation. After Caroline died, I threw myself into work because I didn't know how else to cope. Amelia had withdrawn completely, and I had no idea how to reach her. You were grieving, Rebecca said gently. I was failing her, James corrected, his voice thick with emotion. My own daughter, and I was failing her every single day. Then you arrived, and within a week, Amelia was smiling again. Within a month, she was eating properly. Within 3 months, she was learning sign language and communicating. Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. She's an amazing child. She did the hard work. You gave her the tools, James said, finally looking at her. You gave both of us the tools to heal. The toy store discovery. They spent the afternoon wandering through FAO Schwartz, the legendary toy store that Amelia loved. The little girl's eyes grew wide at the giant stuffed animals and elaborate displays. Paula, the housekeeper who had been with the Winters family for a decade, had texted Rebecca earlier, "Make today count. We will all miss you." The message had made Rebecca cry in the bathroom of a coffee shop. Now, watching Amelia play at the piano keyboard built into the floor, just like in the old movie, Rebecca tried to memorize every detail. The way Amelia's blonde curls bounced when she jumped from key to key. The sound of her delighted breathing. The pure innocence in her expression. James stood beside Rebecca, and their hands accidentally brushed. Neither pulled away immediately. "Rebecca," he began, his voice low. "Mr. Winters, I mean James," she interrupted quickly, knowing she needed to maintain some professional distance. "We should probably start heading back. I still need to finish packing." The light in his eyes dimmed slightly, but he nodded. "Of course." Returning home. Back at the penthouse, the reality of departure became unavoidable. Rebecca's train to Boston left at 6, and Nicole would arrive at 5 to drive her to Penn Station. Amelia clung to Rebecca's leg as she tried to check her suitcase one final time. The child's eyes were red, though she made no sound. Her silence had never felt more heartbreaking. "Sweet pea," Rebecca said softly, kneeling down. "I need to make sure I have everything packed. Can you help me?" Amelia nodded reluctantly and followed Rebecca to the guest room that had been her home. Together they folded the last few items of clothing. Rebecca had taught Amelia this simple task months ago, and they had made it into a game. Now each folded shirt felt like a small goodbye. The photo album. "I have something for you," Rebecca said, pulling out a wrapped package from her closet. A going-away present. Amelia's eyes lit up as she carefully removed the wrapping paper. Inside was a beautiful scrapbook with a blue leather cover. The little girl opened it to find pages filled with photographs from the past year. There were pictures of their daily routines, making breakfast together, reading stories, playing in Central Park, baking cookies in the huge kitchen. Someone had been documenting their journey, capturing moments Rebecca hadn't even known were being photographed. On the last page, Rebecca had written in careful script, "To my sweet pea, Amelia. This year with you has been the greatest gift of my life. Never forget how special you are, how strong you are, and how much you are loved. Always, Rebecca." Amelia hugged the album to her chest, then threw her arms around Rebecca's neck. Her small body shook with silent sobs. "I know, baby," Rebecca whispered, her own tears falling freely now. "I know." James's request. A soft knock on the door made them both look up. James stood in the doorway, his expression pained as he watched his daughter cry. "Rebecca, could I speak with you for a moment?" he asked. "Privately?" Amelia looked between them anxiously. "It's okay, sweet pea," Rebecca assured her. Why don't you go put your photo album in your room? We can look at it together before I leave. Reluctantly, Amelia left, clutching her precious gift. Once they were alone, James closed the door partially. He looked uncharacteristically nervous, running his hand through his hair in a gesture Rebecca had learned meant he was stressed. I need to tell you something, he said. And I know the timing is terrible, possibly the worst timing in the world, but if I don't say it now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Rebecca's heart began to race. James, what is it? These past 11 months, he began, stepping closer. You haven't just been taking care of Amelia. You've been taking care of both of us. You've brought warmth and life back to this apartment. You've made it feel like a home again. That's my job, Rebecca said weakly. No, James said firmly. It stopped being just a job months ago, and you know it. The way you look at Amelia, the way she looks at you, the way we've all become a family, that's not professional. That's real. A difficult truth. Rebecca took a shaky breath. James, I can't. The position in Boston, it's everything I've worked for. It's stable, it's permanent, it's near my parents. I know, he said quietly. And I would never ask you to give up your dreams. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? He moved closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes. It's about making sure you know that you've changed our lives. It's about making sure you know that walking away from us is walking away from people who love you. The word hung in the air between them. Love. Amelia loves you, James clarified, though his eyes said something more. She hasn't said it because she can't say anything yet, but it's written all over her face every time she looks at you. And I need you to know that before you go. Rebecca felt tears streaming down her face. I love her too. So much it terrifies me. Then why are you leaving? Because I have to, Rebecca said, her voice breaking. Because I'm the nanny, James. I'm not her mother. I'm not your wife. I'm an employee, and employees leave when better opportunities come along. The interruption. Before James could respond, a phone rang. His business line, the one he had said he was ignoring all day. He looked at the screen and his jaw tightened. I have to take this. It's about the merger. 5 minutes, I promise. Rebecca nodded, grateful for the interruption. She needed to regain her composure. As James stepped into the hallway to take his call, Rebecca sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process what had just happened. Had James been about to say he loved her? Or was she reading too much into a grateful father's words? Her phone buzzed. Nicole, running 15 minutes late. Traffic is insane. See you at 5:15. 5:15. Less than an hour remained. Rebecca found Amelia in her bedroom, sitting on the floor with her photo album open. The little girl looked up with such sadness that Rebecca's heart shattered all over again. Come here, sweet pea, Rebecca said, sitting on the floor beside her. They looked through the album together, Rebecca narrating the memories. Remember this day? We made snow angels in the park. And this one, when we baked your birthday cake and you got frosting everywhere. Amelia pointed to a picture of the three of them, all covered in flour after an ambitious baking session. It was one of Rebecca's favorites because everyone was genuinely laughing. The final hour. James returned, his expression troubled. There's a problem with the merger. I need to go to the office. Rebecca's heart sank. So this was how it would end. With James at work, unable to even say goodbye properly. I understand, she said quietly. No, you don't, James said firmly. I told them I would be there in the morning. Tonight is too important. I'm not leaving. James, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do, he insisted. Because some things are more important than business deals. Some moments you can't get back. The doorbell rang. Nicole had arrived. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Rebecca's friend entered, cheerful and chatty, not realizing the emotional turmoil filling the apartment. Rebecca introduced her to James, who was polite but distant. "I'll bring the car around," Nicole said after gathering Rebecca's bags. "Take your time saying goodbye." And suddenly, it was time, the final moments. The penthouse felt too quiet as Rebecca knelt in front of Amelia for the last time. The little girl's blue eyes were filled with tears that spilled down her cheeks in silent streams. Rebecca gently wiped them away with her thumbs, trying to memorize the softness of Amelia's skin, the exact shade of her blonde curls, the way her small nose crinkled when she was upset. "Listen to me, sweet pea," Rebecca said, her voice shaking. "I need you to be strong. Can you do that for me?" Amelia shook her head vigorously, her whole body trembling. "I know it's hard," Rebecca continued, tears streaming down her own face now. "But you're the bravest little girl I know. You've overcome so much already." James stood a few feet away, his hands clenched at his sides, watching the goodbye with an expression of barely controlled emotion. Rebecca pulled a small wrapped box from her coat pocket. "I have one more present for you. Something special." With shaking fingers, Amelia unwrapped the gift to reveal a delicate silver locket. Rebecca helped her open it, showing her the tiny photographs inside, one of Amelia, and one of Rebecca. "This way," Rebecca explained, her voice thick with tears, "I'll always be close to your heart. And whenever you miss me, you can open this and remember that I love you." Breaking point. Amelia clutched the locket to her chest, and then something inside her seemed to break. She wrapped her arms around Rebecca's neck with desperate strength, her small body shaking with sobs that made no sound but were felt deeply by everyone in the room. "I'm so sorry," Rebecca whispered over and over. "I'm so sorry, sweet pea." James's phone buzzed insistently in his pocket, but he ignored it. His eyes were locked on his daughter and the woman who had become so essential to their lives. "Rebecca, wait," he said suddenly, stepping forward. "Before you go, there's something else." He disappeared briefly into his study and returned with an envelope. "Amelia and I worked on this together. We wanted you to have it." Inside was a letter written in James's elegant handwriting, with Amelia's colorful drawings decorating the margins. "Dear Rebecca," it read. "You came into our lives when everything was dark. You brought sunshine and music and hope. You taught Amelia how to communicate again. You taught me how to be a father again. You showed us both that it was okay to heal, to move forward, to find joy again after loss. We will never forget you. With all our love, James and Amelia." Nicole's observation. From the doorway, Nicole watched the scene with growing concern. She had known Rebecca for 6 years, since their college days, and she had never seen her friend like this. Yes, Rebecca had mentioned growing attached to the family, but this was something deeper. "Rebecca," Nicole said gently. "Honey, the train leaves in 90 minutes. If we don't leave now, you'll miss it." Rebecca nodded but couldn't seem to let go of Amelia. James suddenly spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "Rebecca, can I ask you one question before you leave?" She looked up at him, still holding Amelia close. "In all these months, has there been a single day when leaving felt like the right choice? A single morning when you woke up and thought, I can't wait to move to Boston?" Rebecca opened her mouth to answer, but no words came out. The truth was, she had been dreading this day since she accepted the position 3 months ago. "Because from where I'm standing," James continued, taking a step closer, "it looks like you're about to walk away from exactly where you belong." The confession. "James, please," Rebecca said, her voice breaking. "Don't make this harder than it already is." "What if I asked you to stay?" he said quietly. The words hung in the air like snowflakes, delicate and transformative. Nicole's eyes widened. Rebecca felt her heart stop. Not as an employee, James clarified quickly. Not as just Amelia's nanny. As part of our family. Permanently. You don't know what you're saying, Rebecca whispered. I know exactly what I'm saying, James insisted, kneeling down beside her and Amelia. I'm saying that somewhere over the past 11 months, you stopped being the nanny and became the person who makes this house a home. You became the person Amelia runs to when she's scared. You became the person whose laughter fills these rooms with life. He paused, his voice dropping even lower. You became the person I think about first thing every morning and last thing every night. Rebecca's breath caught. James. I'm not asking you to give up your dreams, he said. I'm asking you to consider that maybe your dreams have changed. That maybe there's a different kind of future waiting for you here, if you're brave enough to take it. Amelia's moment. Amelia had been listening to every word, her small face turning from her father to Rebecca and back again. Something in the conversation seemed to click in her young mind. The little girl pulled back from Rebecca's embrace and looked directly at her. Her blue eyes were intense, focused in a way Rebecca had never seen before. Amelia's mouth opened. She struggled, her face scrunching with effort as she tried to form words that hadn't come in over a year. Sweet pea, it's okay, Rebecca said softly. You don't have to. But Amelia was determined. Her small hand reached up to touch Rebecca's face, just as she had done 1,000 times before. Her lips moved, working around sounds that had been locked away for so long. She struggled, her whole body tense with concentration. The room fell completely silent. Even Nicole, who barely knew the situation, seemed to understand that something monumental was happening. Mom. Amelia whispered, the word barely audible but crystal clear. Time stopped. The breaking dam. Rebecca's eyes went wide, tears streaming down her face. What did you say, sweet pea? Amelia's face broke into a trembling smile, tears still falling. Mom, she said again, louder this time. Her voice was rusty from disuse, sweet and high-pitched. Don't go, Mom. James made a choked sound, his hand covering his mouth as he watched his daughter speak for the first time in 14 months. Amelia, Rebecca sobbed, pulling the little girl close. Oh my God, Amelia. You're talking. You're talking. Stay, Amelia said, the word growing stronger. Please stay, Mom. Nicole was crying now too, one hand pressed to her heart as she witnessed the miracle unfolding before her. Rebecca looked up at James through her tears. He was crying openly, not bothering to hide his emotions anymore. The merger can wait, he said hoarsely. The company can wait. Everything can wait. But this, what we have right here, this moment, this family, this is what matters. You matter, Rebecca. To both of us. The choice. Rebecca looked down at Amelia, who was gazing up at her with such hope and love. She looked at James, this man who had somehow become so much more than an employer. She thought about the penthouse that had become home, the routines that had become her life, the love that had grown without her permission. Then she looked at Nicole, her dear friend who had driven through holiday traffic to take her to Penn Station. I'm sorry, Rebecca said to Nicole. I'm so sorry. I know you came all this way. Nicole laughed through her tears. Are you kidding? I just watched a little girl speak for the first time in over a year. I witnessed a Christmas miracle. And honestly, watching you pack these past few weeks, I knew your heart wasn't in Boston. Rebecca turned back to James and Amelia. If I stay, she said carefully, things have to change. I can't be just an employee anymore. That wouldn't be fair to anyone. You were never just an employee, James said softly. You were always meant to be here, with us. I was just too afraid to admit it. I love you, Mom, Amelia said again, testing out her newfound voice, delighting in the sound of her own words. Love you so much. New beginnings. Rebecca made her decision. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number for the school in Boston. "This is Rebecca Hayes," she said when they answered. "I'm calling about the position I accepted. I'm afraid I need to decline. Something important has come up. Family." When she hung up, James was looking at her with wonder in his eyes. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Rebecca, I never want you to regret this." "I've never been more sure of anything," she replied honestly. "This is where I belong." Amelia squealed, actually squealed with joy, and wrapped her arms around both Rebecca and her father, pulling them into a tight hug. Nicole discreetly began carrying Rebecca's bags back inside from where she had left them by the door. "I guess I'll help you unpack again," she said with a grin. "But first, you all need to just sit with this moment." Christmas Eve promise. As the sun began to set on Christmas Eve, painting the Manhattan skyline in shades of orange and pink, the three of them sat together on the couch. Amelia was nestled between Rebecca and James, talking softly, testing out different words, making up for lost time. "Say it again, sweet pea," Rebecca kept asking, unable to believe it was real. "Mom," Amelia said happily each time. "My mom." James reached across his daughter to take Rebecca's hand. "I know we need to talk about everything," he said quietly. "About what this means, about the future, about us." "We have time now," Rebecca replied, squeezing his hand. "We have all the time in the world." Paula, the housekeeper, appeared in the doorway with hot chocolate and Christmas cookies. When she saw Amelia talking, she nearly dropped the tray. "Miss Amelia," she exclaimed. "You're speaking." "Hi, Paula," Amelia said shyly, still getting used to the sound of her own voice. "Merry Christmas." Paula burst into happy tears, setting down the tray and rushing over to hug the little girl. The perfect Christmas. That evening, they decorated the penthouse together for Christmas. Real garlands, twinkling lights, and ornaments that Amelia carefully selected from boxes that hadn't been opened since before her mother died. "Caroline would have loved you," James said quietly to Rebecca as they stood together, watching Amelia hang ornaments on the tree. "She would have been so grateful that you were here for Amelia. For both of us." "I wish I could have known her," Rebecca replied honestly. "In a way, you did," James said. "You brought back all the joy she put into this house. You reminded me of all the things she believed in: love, family, hope, second chances." Amelia called out to them, her voice still miraculous to hear. "Come see. I put the star on top." They rushed over, exclaiming over her accomplishment, and Amelia beamed with pride. Later, as Amelia finally drifted off to sleep in Rebecca's arms, still talking softly about Christmas morning, James looked at the woman who had saved his family. "Thank you," he whispered. "For staying. For choosing us." "You gave me a family," Rebecca replied softly. "How could I choose anything else?" The promise of tomorrow. On Christmas morning, Amelia woke them both early, running into Rebecca's room and jumping on the bed. "Wake up! Wake up! It's Christmas. Santa came." Rebecca laughed, pulling the excited little girl into her arms. A moment later, James appeared in the doorway, his hair messy, wearing pajamas instead of his usual suit. "Room for one more?" he asked with a smile. "Always," Rebecca replied. They spent the morning opening presents, Amelia narrating everything in her sweet voice, making up for over a year of silence. She told them about her dreams, her favorite colors, her wishes for the future. "What do you want most, sweet pea?" Rebecca asked as they sat surrounded by wrapping paper and ribbons. Amelia looked at Rebecca, then at her father, then back to Rebecca. "I have it," she said simply. "I have my family."